Did you know Aki was originally designed to look like Levi Ackerman, and that Denji didn't even have blonde hair? How about the prank Denji in Power Pulled that had Aki acting like this? In the first rough drafts of Chainsaw Man, Aki was designed to have piercings and an undercut with bangs that made him look like Levi Ackerman if he had joined a punk band. And there's even a version where he has a huge scar across his face like Kuro Centendo. Denji, on the other hand, had two versions mocked up, one with black hair and one with blonde. The black hair version feels heavier and gives him a way more depressing vibe in my opinion, but Fujimoto ended up going with blonde, and it honestly changes everything. It gives Denji a way more chaotic, lively, almost reckless feel that really fits his character. But that energy doesn't just stop there, because as we know, Denji will eat literally anything. Apple peels, orange peels, he's even offered to eat Aki's scabs because they offer nutritional value. But that's not the only nutritious thing he's eaten. A trait like that tells you a lot about Denji's character. But the way he and Pochita celebrate Christmas does even more. The two used to celebrate the holidays by mixing flour, water, and sugar in a bowl and drinking it. He even asked Pochita if it tastes like cake, except neither of them have eaten cake before. You may remember that before Special Division 4 goes in the hotel to subjugate a devil, Denji and Power bring up the prank they pulled that morning, causing Aki to threaten to kill them. Fujimoto tweeted the same day of that episode release, revealing the prank they pulled on Aki was stuffing literal poop up his nose while he was sleeping. A prank that definitely went too far, but isn't surprising knowing Denji and Power have the collective brain power of a 5-year-old. Now we all know that Pochita has the traits of a chainsaw, but did you know he has a closer resemblance to Makita, a real chainsaw manufacturer in Japan? And the name Pochi is a very common name for dogs in Japan, along with the suffix ta from Makita makes the name Pochita. It definitely makes sense when you think about it, but I can't say the same for this next point, as Chainsaw Man is set in 1997, which makes it pretty odd to see a 2A to CHR, which first came out in 2016 in the manga. However, the anime does correct this mistake by putting a car more fitting for the times. A silly mistake like that doesn't really impact the story of Chainsaw Man, unlike this next point that could have changed the course of Chainsaw Man forever. Kobeni is still alive and kicking, but that might not have been the case, as Fujimoto revealed that the Angel Devil's death was a direct result of letting his editor Shihei Lin decide who he wanted to survive between Kobeni and the Angel Devil. Lin picked Kobeni to die as he didn't want Angel to suffer the fate, so Fujimoto assumed that if readers didn't want Angel to die, he should kill him off. And Fuji didn't stop there, because Makima didn't come from storyboards or planning. She came from a dream. When Fuji was a kid, he was prone to dreaming about stories of different kinds in his mind. One of his early fantasies included a story called Breath of the Stars, which features Makima as the main character. But Makima isn't the only character Fujimoto has dreamed up. Before Chainsaw Man, he had an idea for a story called Ibuki, with the main protagonist being reze or whatever. And while thinking about what to do next in Chainsaw Man, he came up with the idea to have Denji fall in love with other girls outside of Makima. But worried about the story being too predictable, he pulled inspiration from the 1998 anime film called Jinro, and directly based Reze and Denji's dynamic on its main characters. Two people being used, manipulated, and ultimately discarded by the system. The opening scene of Jinro features a girl carrying out a suicide bombing, and the pose Reze makes when activating her ability is nearly identical. Of course, he did combine other works that inspired him, but he said he was most conscious of this one. Fujimoto pours so much thought and emotion into some characters, and then somehow Chainsaw Man fans go and put Kobeni's car above her in an official popularity poll. During the first ever CSM popularity poll that took place between February and May of 2020 with over 230,000 voters, Kobeni's car, that we only saw a few times and most notably rammed it in Denji and killed Kurosa's imposter, ranked 7th place with 9,878 votes, putting Kobeni in the 8th spot with only 9,580. The disrespect is crazy. But did you know that in chapter 48 of the manga, after Reze captures Denji's upper body and begins walking away, Aki plays dead in a pile of bodies to then get the drop on Reze and cut off her arm. And in chapter 96, after losing the initial fight to Makima, Denji does the exact same thing, even down to his stance, in order to surprise attack Makima. This proves that Denji may have a higher IQ than a 5-year-old after all. And after that, he turned her into fridge meat and ate her with love. And you know, this is kind of symbolic considering that Fujimoto also ate something he loved, which was his pet goldfish, but we'll get to that later. The Gun Devil is one of the most powerful devils we've witnessed in the show thus far, also holding the highest death count. And it's interesting to note that his list of deaths isn't just random individuals, but also includes some well-known names from the anime world, such as the creator of Golden Kamuy, Satoru Noda, Kuji Mori, author of Holy Land, and the well-known devil hunter Aki Hayakawa. Equally as interesting, in the Jump Festa 2022 interview, Fujimoto stated that the complete form for the Gun Devil will have arms, legs, and flesh. The one we saw in part 1 was a Gun Devil formed from its parts in America as a result of Fujimoto's understanding of America's gun culture and the vast number of guns it has. Moving on, Makima is a fairly unique character, but she's not without influence. Fujimoto said he was inspired by Benton from the eccentric family, describing her as an unfathomable being who is higher than humans. But she also has her own sadness that we, the lonely ones, can't provide comfort for. And I think Fujimoto did really well here, as Makima doesn't just want to have a family, she wants something she can't even name, something she watches from a distance but never really feels. When Makima goes to the movies with Denji and watches a hug scene, she cries. And it's later revealed that she always wanted to form equal relationships with others and have something like a family, but she could only ever form them through fear and control. You may have noticed a pattern with the females of Chainsaw Man. Power and Yoru are absolutely unhinged, Asa is arrogant but also hates herself, and Makima is just objectively superior. But Fujimoto doesn't just write waifus, he writes women that are actually his type. In an interview with Hirokai Samura, author of Blade of the Immortal, Fujimoto admitted the type of women he likes and how easy it is to make connections between these preferences and the kind of women who appear in Chainsaw Man. He even told a story about a girl who was always mean to him. One day she knocked over his bike and laughed in his face, and his reaction was, I quote, "I was so happy." In early concept art, Power had no horns and an alien-style snake wrapped around her neck, which was giving mad Speedo Sound Sonic vibes. And you know, I wouldn't mind seeing Power on a skin-tight ninja, but her name is actually pretty interesting, as it doesn't just mean power in the raw strength sense. Power's name, along with some of the other fiends and devils, are references to one of the middle orders of angels in Christian mythology. Beam, Galgali, Prince, Seraphim, Dominion, Angel, and Virtue. We don't really get to meet all these characters, but they all have names that somehow connect to the angelic orders. Did you know that Kobeni has the same mole patterns as Togatsu from Fire Punch? Both characters have 2 moles just under their left eye and one under the right side of their lip. And Kishibe is basically an animated Mads Mikkelsen. They feature similar builds, similar eyes, similar hair, the same dead inside energy, and a lot of the characters Mikkelsen plays feel similar to Kishibe. Fujimoto drawing real-life inspiration from an actor would make sense considering how much he actually draws from so many other films for inspiration. Some more notable ones are FLCL or Fooly Cooly. Fujimoto's called Chainsaw Man a wicked FLCL, and you can definitely see how Aki and Denji share elements of Neuta. Plus the symbolism between the cigarettes and the writings, while they do hold different meanings, Aki's easy revenge hits on his biggest flaw, which is his pursuit for hollow revenge. Beyond that, Fujimoto's also name-dropped Abara, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Kizumonogatari as inspirations. Along with the Gun Devil's true form and why he decided to kill the Angel Devil, during the Jump Festa 2022 interview, Fujimoto revealed that the original concept for Himeno is much different from what we got. She was actually supposed to be Denji's partner and buddy and Aki's little sister. And I think this definitely would have changed the story up a bit, but not too much considering season 1 of the anime. Now this one is still pretty questionable, but Denji is an adult in part 2. I'm going to use chapter numbers here for the sake of clarity, and this is going to be a little long, so bear with me. Back in chapter 20, Denji tells everyone he's 16, and in chapter 75, where the Gun Devil attacks Makima, the date is confirmed to be September 12th of 1997. In chapter 80, after this, Denji and Power get an apartment, and it's kind of clear they lived there for a while. In chapter 81, just before this, Power prepares a cake for Denji's birthday with the cake saying happy 17th birthday. This confirms that Denji's birthday is somewhere between September 12th and December 31st. In chapter 97, Denji enrolls in high school for the first time. And no date is mentioned, but at this point we know it's definitely late 1997 or early 1998. After this, we start part 2. Chapter 98, Asa's school teacher brings Bucky the Chicken Devil to class, and they stay with it for about 3 months. So at this point, it should be around February or March. And at the end of the chapter, we see a poster for a Chainsaw Man calling party dated May 12th, which confirms that chapter 98 is before that date. In chapter 119, on Asa and Denji's second date at his apartment, the calendar on his walls marked March parts, which suggests it is March. The same week in chapter 122, Yoshida tells Spammy about the prophecy of Nostradamus that's supposed to happen in the 7th month of 1999, which would be July. Chapter 133, Yoshida tells Denji to quit being Chainsaw Man, and in chapter 135, also joins the Chainsaw Man church, starts hunting devils on her own, and becomes popular. A news reporter says she's been doing it for at least 1 month now, so it should be April or possibly later by now. Chapters 136 to 142, Denji lives normally-ish with Naita for some time without turning into Chainsaw Man while being stalked by Fumiko in the Chainsaw Man church. This leads us to chapter 146, where Barham says that the prophecy of Nostradamus will happen in half a year from now, implying the date is now January of 1999, which means that Denji lived normally-ish for about 8 or 9 months. This pretty much confirms that Denji's 18th birthday was off-screen between chapters 136 and 142. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, that's quite a bit to digest, and I could be wrong, so feel free to replay the video and fact-check me. But for now, let's continue with some notable facts and some weird Fujimoto stuff. Like, did you know that Fujimoto actually drew the schematics to the inner workings of Denji's Chainsaw Man head? Fujimoto also based Denji and Pochita's relationship off of Finn and Jake from Adventure Time, and hear me out, it's actually kind of fun. 2 young blonde kids fight evil with the help of their supernatural dogs and a demonic girl in the service of a manipulative pink-haired lady that they're trying desperately to bang in spite of her being significantly older than them. Remember when I talked about Fujimoto eating something he loved? Well, in his second collection of one-shots, Fujimoto included an author note that told the story of his pet fish. While living in Yamagata with his girlfriend, they both had a pet rice fish, but one summer it died. His girlfriend wanted him to give it a proper burial, so he took it to a park where he tried to bury it under a tree, but since the ground was too hard, he decided to leave it lying on top of the dirt and cry about it for a bit. But as he did that, ants started swarming its body, and as he washed, something unexplainable came over him, so he brushed the ants away and ate it. The next day, he got food poisoning and lied to his girlfriend about what happened. He confessed his sin in the note and said the memory of lying to his girlfriend was far stronger than the guilt of eating their pet fish. And that still makes what I'm about to say a lot less surprising. Fujimoto also said that since there weren't any prep schools near him, he went to an art class with a lot of old people where he did oil paintings in the corner. But since all of them were better than him, he made a pact with himself saying that if he didn't get better than them in 4 years, he'd kill them. And since he didn't want to become a fugitive as a good artist, he just kept drawing. And that's how Fujimoto's art career started. He got better, the old people lived, and we got Chainsaw Man.